Is Nuno set to leave Nottingham Forest? Are Forest selling Morgan Gibbs-White and Murillo? And there's a rumour that the points may be coming back to Forest today, or at least the verdict, and plenty more. Welcome to your Forest News. Good morning, good evening, or good night. Hope you guys are doing well, and welcome to your latest Forest News. Coming up in today's video, we'll talk you through all the mainstream media rumours about Nuno and his future. We'll talk to you about Forest suing, technically, Sky over what Gary Neville has said. And will Forest be selling Murillo and Morgan Gibbs-White? And on top of that, we'll tell you whether or not the points are coming out today, according to rumours and sources. If you're enjoying the content, please don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to Forest Fan TV if you are new. And thank you so much as we hit 82.5% of the fund towards the new PC. If you have a spare £1 or two, please get us over the line. Let's see if we can do it before the Chelsea game. I'll leave the link for you in the comments down below and on the end screen. All right, let's jump into this. And there's plenty going on at the moment, at least in rumourvilles, about what's happening at Nottingham Forest. There's talks about Nuno's future. The reports are coming through saying that his position will be reviewed at the end of the season. Now, whether or not that's dependent on if we stay up or not, they don't go into that much detail. But I think it's a bit of a silly story, because of course it's going to be reviewed. If Forest were to be relegated, worst case scenario, let's hope it doesn't happen, then it's very unlikely that Forest will keep Nuno on because of his salary. He is the highest paid manager in the history of Nottingham Forest. He's bringing in a good buck. If Forest were to stay up, then I still think that Marinakis and the powers that be will review Nuno's position to whether or not they think it's the right direction. But the whole thing is talking about Forest in a financial state, because what they're saying is that it's almost like a given that Forest is selling Murillo, and that Morgan Gibbs-White, they've put a price tag on him now, apparently, if you believe what the mainstream media is saying, of between 50 and 60 million pounds. And I don't see the logic behind this. So whether or not I believe the stories is one thing, but secondly, the point here is we know factually that Forest in January were about 12 to 15 million away from meeting their PSR deadline, which, for those of you who've forgotten, will be the 30th of June. And having to go and sell Murillo and Morgan Gibbs-White to get on the right side of the dotted line, for me, would be overkill. Now, remember, even if we got, say, 60 million for Morgan Gibbs-White, Forest have already probably spent, let's call it 30 to 35 million, and that would leave them with a profit line of about 25 million on Morgan Gibbs-White. Therefore, is that really then, is there really the need to sell Murillo on top of that, to take us way past the line? So I think there's a bit too much going on in terms of the media and how they're trying to hype this story up. And if you think about it logically, Forest have plenty of assets that are not even in the club right now that they could look to sell for 5 million here, 7 million there, etc. Look at Lewis O'Brien. Remember him? He's out in the Championship. He could end up staying. I think he's at Middlesbrough. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But there is talks that they want to keep him. And there's one or two other clubs interested in him as well. Joe Worrell scoring the other day for his club out in Turkey. They have an option to buy him. I don't think if Nuno's still in charge that Joe Worrell will be on his list of his squad come the next season. So we could get some money for him. Let's look at the keepers. You got Vlachodimos, who himself has said a couple of months ago that if he's not being played, then he's not looking to stay. Forest could probably get, 7 million for him for a goalkeeper. And of course, Matt Turner. That's probably one on my want list to sell. But Forest could maybe pick up 5 to 7 million for him. He's still an international goalkeeper for the USA. So there's still plenty. If you just look at those 4 players alone, you've got maybe 15 to 20 million there. And then there's the Mangala deal, where Forest have already got a loan fee from him, but there is an option to buy with that from Lyon. So potentially there, Forest could make another 10 to 15 million on top of what they've already had on the loan deal. So the media for me are jumping to conclusions. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that their conclusions are wrong. They could be correct, because if someone were to come in for Murillo with, I don't know, 70 million, 80 million, we know he's been linked to PSG, to Barca, to Real, to Liverpool, to a couple of other Premier League clubs as well, then potentially Forest would have no choice but to say yes. And that would give us a pure profit on him, because he cost us, what, 13 million or so, and that was spread across the length of his contract. So you're looking at real good profit on him if some silly offer came in like that. And with Morgan Gibbs-White, there'll be quite a few people after him, so it could create a bidding war. But remember, Forest need to get some of these deals done before the 30th of June, or they will breach PSR again, and that could be a problem. But what do you guys think about this Nuno story and this Murillo and Morgan Gibbs-White story? Do you think there's legs in it? Or do you think it's the mainstream media trying to dig away at Forest again? Let me know in the comments down below. Okay, let's move on to an interesting topic, and this may be one you guys heard over the weekend, which is Forest taking legal action against Sky, and in particular the comments that Gary Neville said the other day when that infamous tweet was released. And he said, "It's like a mafia gang statement." And that's the bit of his statement that Forest did not take well to. That really vexed a lot of people in Nottingham Forest because of the insinuations that brought off the back of it. So Forest have sent a legal letter out to Sky in reference to Gary Neville's comments. And interestingly enough, Sky then removed an article they had on their website where Gary Neville was talking about Mark Clattenburg, and it's not a surprise to him that he left Nottingham Forest. He himself has been a walking contradiction ever since then, calling for Clattenburg to resign after the tweet was released, and then saying recently, "Oh no, we never ask for people to, to walk away, etc." So he's a walking contradiction. And what we don't know is what the next steps are. Will this legal letter then go any further? Will Forest look to sue Sky Sports for basically talking about the character of the club, etc.? Or will it just be left there with a threat? And I don't know how I feel about this one. I'm always up for a bit of the Rebel City. But also with Sky, they are our biggest source of income currently while we're in the Premier League. So we do need the money coming in from there. To be honest, that's probably what's keeping Forest afloat, because we haven't made that much money from any player transfers, for example. Now, I'm not for a dictatorship where just because their money is important to us, they get to say and act how they want against the club. So I do think the stance the club has taken to give them a slap across the wrist, I think is enough on this one. But let's see where this leads to. And as always, in a story like this, it has to come to a head, doesn't it? Because the stars align and Forest will play Chelsea on Sky this Saturday night. Gary Neville, are you going to turn up to this one, or are you going to end up in North London again? We wait to see with anticipation. I'm sure you'll be greeted in the correct manner. And speaking of other major stories coming up, is of course the points deduction one. And there are plenty of rumours circulating in the mainstream media right now that Forest will hear on their penalty appeal today, despite it being a bank holiday Monday. And whether or not Forest get points or not, etc., no one knows. As we told you last week, this is a closely guarded secret until the Premier League decide to leak it out to their favourite reporters and journalists. I don't know if this is going to happen today. I'm sticking to my honesty and truthfulness with you. I don't know. We haven't been told anything. It could happen today. It would make sense if it happened today, despite it being a bank holiday, because clubs like Forest, Luton and Burnley need to know where they stand as soon as possible. Now, for me, my worry is the closer it gets towards the end of the season, or maybe the match day on the Saturday, the less likely it is that Forest get points, because it just then becomes and feels too close to the end of the season. But I do try, and I'm still, despite all my, all the things that have convinced me of corruption this season, I still want to remain objective towards this independent panel. But there are questions that need to be asked about them. And I've seen a few of you guys in the comments saying it the other day. Who's paying their wages? How independent is this independent panel? Who selected the panelists? Did Forest get a say in this? Was it like a jury where Nick DeMarco could stand there and say, I'll take you, don't want you, don't want you? And who do they support as well? Because that could have a bearing and an impact on it. These are questions we don't know the answers to, but I think these are actually important questions that should be publicized so we can see just how transparent these proceedings are. Now, with Nick DeMarco in charge, you would expect him to have covered all his bases. This is, of course, where he is the leader in this aspect. But Potentially, the Points news is coming out today. And if it does, we will, of course, break it to you on here. So stay tuned. Make sure you have your notifications on. But how much Forest will get back, if at all, we don't know. We're just going to have to wait and find out. That's your Forest news. I hope you've enjoyed it. I can't wait to read your comments and see your thoughts on all those different stories. And if you haven't already, please don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to Forest Fan TV if you are new. And I'll leave you on the end screen the link for the PC. So if you've got a spare quid or two, just click on that link and anything you can part with will be greatly, greatly appreciated. And finally, if you missed Grumpy Old Reds last night, I'll leave that link too for you on the end screen if you're looking for a little more entertainment on YouTube. We'll see you on the next video. Come on, you Reds.